I don't have any real plans today. And like, even on a regular day, if I don't have plans to go outside, like, even just to see a tree, I probably won't put on the whole makeup look, nor am I even really good at doing my own makeup. Like, I don't have the steadiest hand, and I need to, like, it takes me a bunch of tries to actually do something, so makeup doesn't really offer that luxury, so I don't really do it that often. Or I just do, like, the bare minimum. So the other day I read this article from the National Geographic Journal by this woman named Becky Little, and she basically went into the history of like toxic makeup hacks from a bunch of different countries, and like it turns out they weren't really hacks at all because they were actually like really poisonous, but it was really interesting to read. And obviously I had to like do a deep dive. This was coming from a time where people like didn't know that putting a bunch of toxic stuff on your face was necessarily bad, but it's still kind of fun to just like be like, wow, you shouldn't do that. Medieval history, no matter where, is just full of questionable decisions, and I just love it so much. So this goes way back as early as the Roman Empire, but is also seen today in a lot of East Asian countries where having like brighter and paler skin is thought to be better. And the main reason I could find a lot of people wanted to have brighter skin back in the day was because it was a sign of nobility and being in the upper class. Because like way back when, if you were working outside in a crop, it's probably like a lot easier to get a tan, but that was also considered like lower standards, working in a crop. Like, I don't know, I would love to work in a crop. My grandparents live on a farm, and like I always go outside whacking the weeds. I also read that it was like common for people who were recovering from a lot of diseases, because there were a lot of diseases going around, but the main one being smallpox at the time, and it would leave a lot of scars on their face, so they would basically want to cover it all up with the white makeup. So obviously, that being what was desired at the time, people became very obsessed with finding a way on how to fit their ideal. So Venetian Ceruse, which has also been referred to as spirits of Saturn, in simple terms is just Venetian white lead. Why do spirits of Saturn sound like something your uncle would be smoking before Christmas dinner? This was the main skin whitener makeup hack that people in the 1600s started using. So essentially, you mix white lead, vinegar, and water to make a paste-like solution to spread all over your face. Keeping in mind that today we use white lead for putty and ceramics. So yeah, it was like concrete for your face, and it being concrete for your face, it obviously did a pretty good job at covering everything up. And what's even better is that it was considered to be like a very lavish product because it was like not expensive, but like, on the high end. So people would just put this on their face and they thought it would be like wasteful to wash it off. So they just go to bed, and every time it started coming off, they just put more on top of it. Again, I am not like a makeup or skincare professional, but I feel like I know that it's not good to sleep with your makeup necessarily before you go to bed. I don't know, it like clogs your pores. Skincare queen! And yes, a lot of people got whitened skin from this, but also they got lead poisoning, which is like extremely frightening. I'm just gonna read a few symptoms that Mayo Clinic says adults could get from lead poisoning. High blood pressure, joint and muscle pain, bad memory and focus, headaches, abdominal pain, mood disorders, reduced sperm count or abnormal sperm, and women who are pregnant, it could lead to a miscarriage, stillbirth, or a premature birth. Also, a lot of common side effects that were seen by people who did use the Venetian Ceruse was hair loss, teeth yellowing, and skin peeling. And I read that essentially people's skin started to peel, and to cover up the skin peeling, they would just put more Venetian Ceruse on top of it. Well, that's ironically detrimental. People who get lead poisoning today, it's usually hopefully a one-time situation where they experience these symptoms but not again. But these people who were using the Venetian Ceruse every single day was experiencing severe lead poisoning, which also just meant organ damage and death. Y'all, I kid you not. Apparently people used this product for centuries before they were like, okay, maybe we should look into this. Only in the 18th century did they start to do scientific studies to look into why people were getting lead poisoning for over 200 years. Someone whom I think personally is behind the big thing of Venetian Ceruse and having this idea of a made-up face. It was the original Elizabeth, Queen Elizabeth I. So she reigned over England and Ireland from 1558 to 1603, which was thereof the beginning of the Elizabethan era, but it was also the beginning of the end of the English Renaissance, which is also known as the Tudor dynasty. The Tudor dynasty just being the kings and queens that reigned over England from 1485 to 1603. And Elizabeth being the queen, she obviously had a lot of influential power over a lot of the aristocratic women in the area. So according to this book by Michael Johnstone, where he wrote a bunch of mini stories about like crazy history, he also added a piece about Elizabeth and her crazy extreme use of Venetian Ceruse. Essentially, she was one of those people who just refused to take off any makeup to show her complexion underneath. Like, he wrote that even if people knew about the dangers and the detrimental effects of the Venetian Ceruse, they continued to put it on their face because the Queen Elizabeth was putting it on her face. And apparently the reason she wanted to have Venetian Ceruse on her face was because she thought she'd be more attractive to men. And on top of the Venetian Ceruse, she also used mercuric sulfide, which is basically the chemical compound made by mercury and sulfur. Its other name is also known to be Cinnabar vermilion, which I think personally tops spirits of Saturn. And due to its very red pigmented color, it's used today in the context of giving color to paints, rubbers, and plastics. That's not skin. But basically she would put this stuff on her cheeks to mimic the looks of like blush. Maybe knowing or maybe not knowing that mercury is also something that eats away at your skin. This is the best part, because when Elizabeth was dying, she apparently refused to remove any of her makeup. Only after her death did they remove all the makeup, and probably, I'm assuming, they saw a horrific state of skin and health. And I'm sure she could have been queen for just a little bit longer if she refrained from a lot of these toxic ingredients. Woman supporting woman, but I think we can say that she was definitely partially responsible for influencing casual poisonings in the 16th century. So I'm just throwing this one in here because it's really funny how they said towards the 1800s that, wow, lead is like really, really bad for you. So let's just use a different poison. This is like the cherry on top. Introducing Dr. James P. Campbell's Safe Arsenic Complexion Wafers. I hate to break it to you, but there is no such thing. So this was made in the 1890s in New York, and as self-explanatory as the product is, I'm going to read exactly what it says because so in the National Museum of American History, they literally have the original vintage box of these arsenic wafers. And the description says, freckles, moth, blackheads, pimples, vulgar redness, rough yellow or muddy skins, or other facial disfigurements are permanently removed and deliciously clear complexion and rounding up of angular forms ensured. Deliciously. Apparently people would nibble on these wafers throughout the day to get really sick and pale, and that would be the form of skin whitening. So congratulations, you swapped out lead poisoning for arsenic poisoning.
I don't understand. I don't understand. I don't understand. I don't.
So the use of toxic ingredients in cosmetics were eventually banned in around 1938. So the 1930s was when there was a bit of like a makeup revolution, and a lot of the brands like Estee Lauder, Lancome were found, and probably for the better. You know, I very much appreciate how far the makeup industry has come, and I do stand by the fact that you should never put poison on your face just because you think someone might look in your direction. It's not worth it. Bye!